Hello and welcome to this week's Scrum Down NBC Sports Rugby podcast. I am your host with the most, Alex Corbs. It's great to be back, everyone. Lots to talk about this week. Recent news, Nick Evans has been brought in to the England setup as attack coach for the Six Nations, something Alex Lowe hinted on last week's episode. Other news that's been circulating, Scott Lawrence stepping in as interim head coach and in charge of the performance pathways for USA Rugby. That's exciting news. American homegrown coach who's very, very accomplished. I've worked with him. He's been successful in the MLR. Is he a potential head coach candidate for the long term? Definitely. I think keep an eye on that space. But then really to get into today's episode, we have an absolute legend of the game on. Former England captain Chris Robshaw. We got him on the pod. I think we're going to talk through a lot of things. We're going to talk through the Nick Evans news, England at the moment, the coaching staff sort of developing, looking towards the Six Nations. And then the big bulk of the show is actually focusing on England's selection. We pick our England 15. Lots to get into, so let's get to it with Chris Robshaw. And we are joined by England legend, Harlequins legend, San Diego Legion legend, Chris Robshaw. Welcome to the pod, mate.
Thank you, Corbs. Good to see you, mate.
Good to see you too, mate. How is life in retirement treating you?
It's a little bit colder back here in London and San Diego, but no, it's been good. I've been slowly kind of working out my path in which ways I'm going to go in the balance of kind of that work, media kind of commitments, all that kind of stuff. But importantly as well, it's about family time. And I've got a little one now, so it's having good family time with him. And we're slowly moving in the right direction, which is nice.
And do you miss it, mate? Do you see rugby on the weekend? Do you miss it still? Or are you sort of happy to have that, I'm not out there anymore at the moment?
You know what? I don't miss it. I miss like the big games. That's what I miss. I miss the occasions, the atmospheres.
Handy.
Yeah, but I mean, my family went to watch Quins the other day, and it was a hammering it down. I didn't go watch, and then unfortunately the guys lost. The Quins team lost, and then all of a sudden, as a player, the media then come after you, and the fans get a bit after you, and you feel sore and achy, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't miss that at all. I miss being around the guys, of course, and running out in front and playing in front of 15 and 80,000 people, big games, intense, all that kind of stuff. And actually watching that Gloucester-Sarries game, I don't know if you saw it or covered it.
Yeah.
Or NBC there, but that's what you miss. Those intense atmospheres, banter from the crowd, a match winner at the end, controversy in the game. That when I watched that game and I was like, you know what, I miss that. I miss that kind of intensity. You don't miss a team running away from it or not much on the game. But when it's all on the line like that, those moments are special.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I've said it many times in this pod, so I don't need to re-echo it. But it's the big games and those moments that are hard to replace. But then that week in, week out grind, your body's like sort of thanking you that you're not savaging it anymore, and you're actually having a bit more of a social time at rugby games now. Isn't a bad thing either.
And I think a lot of people say, I'm doing some work bits as well. And they're like, you're in early, aren't you? And I was like, people don't realise, as a player, and you're the same, there are some days you're starting at 7:30. Between 7:30 and 8:30, you've generally started. And when you go into work here, your body's not aching. Do you know what I mean? Like when it's cold and dark and you've just played, 15 games, you've got sore shoulders and backs and you've lost a couple of games, your body hurts. But now my body feels good. Me and my wife are actually, we've signed up to the London Marathon. So I'm training for that at the moment. Yeah.
Fair play, mate.
I went for a 6-mile run today. I've got another 20 to go in my training. So, but I've got 3.5 months. And I just need a challenge. I need something. Nice. Similar to you, I know we messaged about it, how as a rugby player, you tend to eat a lot. And especially as a forward, and you get away with a lot of it. Unfortunately, now it's without the training, it's catching up a bit with me. So yeah, marathon end of April. That's my goal for the time being.
Yeah. Oh, good on you. What charity are you running for?
So me and my wife set up a foundation, the Chris Robshaw Foundation, which is empowering young lives through music and sport. So we're going to run it for that.
Oh, amazing, mate! Amazing! Congratulations, bro! Congratulations! That's awesome work, and we'll keep egging it on, and I'll share it on social too as it gets closer. It's impressive with all the miles you've put on the clock that you're still able to run like that. It's impressive. Callum's a big runner as well still, and Callum Clark, and I still I'm just amazed that he's able to just keep doing that after. I just think of all those shuttles, all those runways that we did in England, in Denver, just outrageous that you boys are still churning out road running. It's amazing.
I think this is very much a one and done.
I've heard it's addictive, so you never know, but who knows?
I don't think I'm going to quite go down the Kevin Sinfield route and running that
Yeah.
and then ultra marathons and whatever else. But yeah, that's amazing things that he's done. But yeah, I think one for me is hard enough.
All right, let's get into the rugby news side of things. We've caught up on Chris and how he's doing. The big news at the moment is Nick Evans, mate. Nick Evans coming in as England's attack coach for the Six Nations. It looks like Gleeson will be departing. It hasn't been full confirmation on that, but you're assuming that is going to be the case. And at the moment, it looks like Evans is only coming in for the Six Nations. What do you make of it, mate?
Firstly, I think it's a brilliant addition. I think obviously Steve will know Nick and what he's done with Harlequins and the way he's progressed over the years. But I think also Nick he's got that Kiwi heritage. He played in New Zealand to his 27. He's a proud Kiwi. And a lot of the best attacking coaches come from New Zealand. And you look at the Wayne Smiths and, of course, what they did in the kind of 2011, 15 and that kind of era as well. And their ability to play attacking rugby is phenomenal. But, of course, he understands the English game extremely well. Firstly, I'm playing it here, winning what he did, the accolades he got, the amount of appearances he got, golden boots, whatever it is. But also he's coached it for a long time now. And from my point of view, I was there when he first transitioned from player to coach, and you could tell he was a little bit nervous. And I went back to the club about 2 years ago, actually, and I was seeing there, and I sat in one of the meetings, and I saw him present to the guys and how passionate it was, and how it was about not necessarily about structure, it's about making us get quick ball because then things are option and open. I think with a lot of attacking coaches, there's got to be a structure, there's got to be a framework, but there's got to be flexibility and freedom in that. And then you're trusting the players to do what they do, and the good players make the correct decisions at the right times. Because whenever you run any move, especially in the attacking shape, there's not just one option. People always say, oh, one option, why did you just hit that? That was probably a bad decision on the field, a bad decision in the moment. But it's trusting the guys, the 9s, 10s, 12s, decision makers to make the right calls at the right time and hit at the moment. And then as a coach, you give them that framework, and then it's down to them to excel in that. But in him being an attacking coach, he's very much about speed of ball. And if you get quick ball, it's so much easier to attack. So with that, there's a little bit of breakdown in there as well, and ruck intensity and ruck volume and all that kind of stuff to make sure that ball comes back quick. Because as you know, when you're defending against a team which is having 1 or 2 second rucks, it's very different to defending against a side who's having 3 or 4 second rucks. If it's 3 or 4, you can get set. If it's 1 or 2, you're constantly chasing around the corner. Your feet aren't set. You're not quite under you. You're not quite controlled. And there's a lot more space for the attackers. But from an English point of view, I think they probably, with Eddie, there's been a lot of coaches kind of come in and out. And maybe from an RFU point of view, they don't want to have to pay big payouts again, especially if people don't work out. So I think it's a sensible thing from both points of view. They're giving this Nick an opportunity, and I think he's going to be brilliant, and I think he's going to hopefully get extended. And from an RFU point of view, it's a trial basis for them, isn't it? It's a trial basis. They say, look, we've given you this opportunity, but we don't want to sign you for 4 years just in case something doesn't work, which I don't think is going to be the case. I think he's going to go in there, and I think with the structure that Steve Borthwick will bring, and we both know Steve well, and he is a very structured man with everything. And I think with Nick and the way he's played at Harlequins and coached there, and the way he was brought up in New Zealand rugby, he'll give them that flexibility and a bit more freedom, and hopefully that balance will be brilliant.
No, I agree, mate. That's what I've heard from him. Obviously, not work with him, but the emphasis on just speed of ball, and that over sort of shape and formation, and then allowing players within that to make decisions. And I think, when you look at Nick Evans' attack, who embodies it better than Marcus Smith? And is that a sign, of Steve Borthwick, that he's backing, Marcus in that 10 shirt? He's also got George Ford in the way. Owen Farrell's always an option at 10. It seems like he might be looked more at a 12. He just skated through with his band as well, which we can probably touch on at some point. But for me, it's an interesting one, because I think, remember, is it Farrell, when he came in 2012, I think in our first Six Nations, I believe he was on a temporary basis then, and then they negotiated a release for him afterwards, and it was long term. And I wonder if it's just trying to minimize the disruption to Harlequins, or maybe Harlequins didn't want to just fully release him, or it's, like a trial period, like you said. Or I've also heard potential rumors that Wigglesworth or someone like that might be involved in the summer as an attack coach, and this is just a Six Nations move and then a wait and see on how it goes. Because I think, when we look at Borthwick and everything he's been doing with England, he is sort of, restructuring, readdressing a lot of the key components. He's going to dial up the set piece, especially line out maul, what the forwards are doing, sort of that sort of detail. Cockrell, it looks like the moment, is the guy to be doing the scrum. And I know that they've been internally putting a big emphasis on sort of putting some changes in there and changing perception around how the scrum has gone recently. It's starting to sort of come together, because initially I think when Eddie left, there wasn't really a plan, and people worried about what's going to happen in the Six Nations, what's going to happen as such. And what I'm getting to is that it's starting to look like England are actually forming some sort of plan, structure, framework under Borthwick, which could be quite exciting coming into the Six Nations.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a huge part of Steve's armoury and what he's got and what he's had at Leicester is Kevin Sinfield, the guy that we know came in and spoke to us with Stuart, and when we were with England up in Leeds and stuff. And the mentality of the guy, you look at what he's done in terms of raising money for his good mate Rob Burrows, but it's that mentality he's going to bring to the players in a different way, in a different approach. He's been there, he's done it, he's captained his country, Leeds, he's won stuff around the world, and he's going to bring that wisdom with him. And you look at the way he speaks now, and he speaks so passionately about how important it is to coach and have that next generation. He gets a bigger buzz out of that than anything he ever did playing, which was amazing. So I think it's forming and shaping into a really nice and a good dynamic of a coaching staff that will challenge each other, but they'll also support each other in the right ways.
Mate, I completely agree. How did I miss Big Kev there when I was bigging up England? But yeah, what a signing. And he sees to be, Borthwick's right-hand man in coming into this scenario. It looks like John Clark or JC, head of S&C, is on the way out, but that might open up the doors for him to bring over his sort of head of performance from Leicester. But really, Kev's sort of that right-hand man that I think Steve in interviews has said, he challenges me, he keeps me honest, which I think is a character which is good to hear from Steve, that he doesn't want sort of that yes men mentality. He wants people that are going to challenge, that are going to question. And then, with Sinfield, like you've just hit on, I touched on it last week. I said about how he spoke to us in Leeds and talked about, it's what you do when no one's watching that defines you, and things like that. And just the character of the man, the way he speaks, the way he follows, it's quite Farrell-esque. And I think that's something that England have missed a little bit in the last couple of years under Eddie. His coaching staff just kind of, he didn't really have those big personality blockbuster coaches like England had maybe in the 4 years before. And it seems to be like Steve is going back to that, of like a sort of Avengers like assembling of the best coaches from the Premiership.
I agree, and that's a great way of putting it. I think to pick some of the best from the leagues we know, but also have experience elsewhere. Like you said, Sinfield's English, but he's come from a different code. He has played Union, he played at Leeds as well, but he's seen different things. He's worked with different coaches. He's worked with different players and understandings and all this kind of stuff. So with Nick and Cockrell's obviously been up to Edinburgh now, and he was at Toulon and all that kind of stuff. And they've all got that experience. And yeah, they're forming a nice little partnership so far from the outside. And fingers crossed it'll work well.
Agreed, mate. And I think Now that we're kind of seeing the coaching staff come together, I think it'll be interesting what game plan England go with. How does this team want to play? Because if you look at Borthwick's sort of Leicester mold and framework that he's built, you've got that physicality, that almost South African-esque influence in your pack. You've then got a very well organized defense, good kicking game, play the percentages. Will England do that with Nick Evans, or are they going to maybe adapt a Sinfield defense, a bit more of a Quins-like attack, hybrid the two, and then go back to sort of England's bread and butter with the set piece?
I would hope so. Look, I think there's no doubt Steve coming in, the set piece is going to be huge. He prided himself, especially the line out. You would have thought he would have two kind of big second rows, and most probably Courtney Lawes at 6, or someone of that kind of stature who is another incredible line out option. So he'll definitely want to kind of, and go into the scrum where they came under a lot of pressure in that autumn series. He'll definitely want to turn it up and say, look, what is English rugby about? And in all his press kind of comments, it's kind of about we fight for everything, we work hard. So I think from a forward pack, definitely that. I think in terms of a back line, in terms of attacking, no doubt they're going to play more. No doubt I think they're going to play a little bit wider as well. I think initially in the autumn, they played very much of 9. All the runners were of 9. And they actually made success when we looked at that New Zealand game, or at the very end of that game, they attacked a little bit wider. Yes, at times they played through 9 or out the back of that. But you play off 10, you play off 12, and you create other opportunities. And in that autumn in particular, I think they went into their shells a little bit. No doubt Nick's going to come in as well. He's going to infuse everyone. He's going to get them going. But of course, with this core hard group of we work hard, we don't give anything away easily. Defensively, we go off the sides, but we score points and we score tries.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest catalysts for Eddie leaving really was the crowd booing at Twickenham. And that's kind of what probably pushed him over the edge with sort of the powers that be, because you think they backed him so far. It seemed inevitable that they were going to let him run to the World Cup now that they'd gone this far, and sort of ignored a lot of the criticisms. But then finally, sort of the crowd turned on them after that sort of lackluster performance. And that's why I think this part of the emphasis is to play, to score tries, to get the crowd back behind England, because it's such a big driver for the team, but also financially for the RFU, making sure that those tickets sold, the packages are sold, the hospitality, the sponsors, the everything. It's all entitled to the big picture. And I think that booing is probably where they got a little worried. And that's where the final sort of nail in the coffin for Eddie probably came. That style of play we've talked about. I think the other thing with new coach coming in is selection, and the fact that, this could be a very different England side, or it could be almost similar on paper. Which way they decide to go in key areas, to me, is fascinating.
I agree. And look, unfortunately, for Eddie, that last game, the boos and the media turned on him. And I think, like you said, unfortunately, that was probably it. He couldn't get himself out of that one. And I think that Steve coming in now, yes, we need to get the fans on side straight away. And look, they're now going into a Six Nations where Gatland's come back for Wales, so they're going to be pumped up. Italy are playing probably the best rugby they've ever played. Obviously, you look at Ireland and France, who are very good at the moment. Scotland are playing pretty well. You never know with Finn Russell effect. And
yes, they're game, mate. Scotland are game. Like, you see, they'll beat a big team. Like, there's no guarantees in that Six Nations.
No, exactly. And so it's going to be hard. There's no kind of denying that. It's going to be a tough tournament. But as a player, as a new coaching group, that's what they want to go up against. Because all of a sudden, they have 1 or 2 good wins, not wins they should win, but good wins. People get on side, and look, people will give them time. Of course, people will give them time to say, look, it's a new coaching group, potentially a new group of players. Go out there, but get us on side. Let's get behind the side. And of course, they want to win it. Of course, they want to be in the best possible shape for the World Cup. But they need to get the Twickenham back on side for sure.
Absolutely. And then player-wise, let's just go through a 15 and talk selection and positions and have a little bit of a chat. And maybe we can agree on a team that I can post out on the podcast page. as such here. But we'll start in the front row, which I feel you'll give me a bit of leeway to take the lead on a little bit. But I think for me, I don't think Ellis Genge scrummaging had his best autumn, and I think there's some areas that he can really work on his setup that would help him a lot in that area. And I do feel that you're going to see some improvements there from him. And as long as that's the case, he is absolutely nailed down as my starting one. I think the guy is incredible around the field. I don't think there's ever been another player like him in a loosehead shirt. And the impact, the dynamicness that he possesses, the charismatic leadership qualities he has, the sort of ruthless sort of, almost thug he can be on the field at times as well. I think he's a cornerstone of that England team. I just need to make sure that he's bang on it at set piece. If not, then you've got Mako. And I'm probably going to keep Bevan Rodd in the wings, ready and waiting at a time, because I do feel he's probably the next guy coming through.
Ruskin from Gloucester.
It's a good call. He's probably the other one who's in the mix. They're slightly different players. I think with Bevan, he's very mobile. Technically his scrum is very good. He's not the biggest, but I've never seen it as a real issue for him when he's in that sail team and that pack with the right size around him. I don't feel like he's a struggle there. Where Palmer Ruskin has been there and thereabouts for ages, but for some reason he's not quite cracked it and made that jump to international test prop. And that's not saying he can't do it. I just think with Bevan's pedigree coming through the 20s, he's already been in the camps. He's already been there. For me, I think as long as I got my two starters, he's probably my third. If one of those big dogs dropped out, then there's a potential question mark. Would you go Ruskin, or would you go Joe Marler or someone to fill the gap with some experience as well? I think it's kind of sort of TBD there, but that's kind of my depth chart at loosehead. What do you reckon for hooker, mate?
I would go Jamie George. Of course, there's always that battle between him and Luke Cowan-Dickey, but Luke's injured, and if both were fit, I'd probably still go for Jamie.
It's crazy because it almost seemed like Eddie was determined to move on from him. And you look at this England right now, the fact their set piece needs to get improved. He's got to be bolted on as your starter at hooker. Cowan-Dickey's injury seems to be like he'll miss the Six Nations. It's a question mark of who that next hooker is behind Jamie George. Have you got any thoughts on it?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You're looking at that. I think Jack Walker at Harlequins has been great. He left Bath. He was behind Tom Dunn, not playing much, and he's gone there and alongside Joe Marler and Wilco Lowe. I think he's put his hand up. He's been really consistent. But saying that, Harlequins have had a tough couple of weeks, and things can change very quickly.
I think Dolly's back at Leicester as well, I believe. So you never know as well.
And I wonder that with the Leicester thing. I wonder if, because everyone will say, not just him, but is it going to be biased towards Leicester? Do you know what I mean? He knows them well. He's worked with them.
Yeah.
But then that can almost work against you sometimes. That Steve might want to see. Actually, I don't want people to see that. You know how it can play in people's minds subconsciously.
Yeah.
That's another plot in itself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if we're talking about bringing back people from Leicester, as we get onto Tighthead, that's probably the one. If he is going to bring someone back, this is probably the one who I think he will bring back is Dan Cole. I still think at Tighthead, my start is probably Carl Sinclair as long as he's fit and his scrummaging is where it needs to be. But I do think they are going to recall the old warhorse Dan Cole back into the front row and try and make England's scrum great again, sort of moniker, and you've got one of its stalwarts back in the mix. It seems a no-brainer to me there. Let's
get him back. Let's start campaigning to get. I mean, I don't think he needs our help. I think he's there. He's been brilliant this year, and for me, I room with him, so I know him well. But I think
you and him are close.
I think he's on 96 caps or something. So if he can get into this, but I look in the league at the moment, in all seriousness, taking friendship and all that away, I think if you need someone to come on a steadier scrum for the last 20 minutes of a game, last 30 minutes of a game, I don't think there's many better at the moment. And he's got that experience. He's a quiet guy, but he's confident in the scrums, and he'll let you know what he feels, and he'll help if nothing else as well, drive the standards in training. Every Scrum session and every Scrum in that session will be what he wants to get over. And whether he's starting or in the reserves, he'll be challenging everyone.
He hasn't played for England for a while, but for me, it's a no-brainer to run him probably to this World Cup as another tight head in your rotation. Joe Hayes hasn't quite shown he's that test tight head yet. Coley playing above him at club level as well, which would have been a selection that Borthwick would have been involved in as well, gives me sort of reason to lean that way. The other guy that I think has always been a potential for me, but hasn't been in the mix for ages, is Harry Williams.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, unfortunately, Will Stewart is a serious player, serious tight head, but injuries, unfortunately, can come at the wrong times.
Exactly.
But then someone like Will Stewart being in Borthwick's World Cup plans, and like I said, he might want someone he knows, someone who might not be in his World Cup plans. But yeah, Harry Williams, Dan Cole, these type of guys definitely putting their hands up for that.
What about the locks, mate? I'll let you take over now.
The locks, you know who really impressed me in the autumn series was Ribbons from Saints. I think he was brilliant. He's a big guy, he's a physical guy, but he's skillful. We saw some of his offloads and all that, and he's gone back to Saints, and I think he's done exactly the same. He's carried on, and for me, in the autumn series, from when England didn't play particularly well, I think he put his hand up. So I put him, and I'm going to partner him with Maori. Atoje, of course, I don't think you can go too far away from him. And by his standards, probably not his best autumn, and I'm sure he'll admit that, but he's world class. He has big moments in all games, and he's back at that level again, which is great to see. And whenever you put him on a team sheet, he's tough to play against. He's one of those players you want to have in your side. So I think for those two will be a nice little partnership, and of course, with a line-out focus, we'll hopefully get the best out of this pack.
I'll let you take it away now with the back row, mate. What we thinking? This is your specialty. This is going to be a tough one. There's a lot of options here.
Well, it depends if Corney can get back fit. We know he's suffering a bit with concussion at the moment. I'm not sure if he's quite back, but if he's fit, I'm going to put him at 6. I think Steve Borthwick's going to go for a huge line-out influence. I think if he is not fit, I think he may even look at someone like a Ted Hill. Ted Hill for that kind of 6 role. He's been exceptional since he's gone to Bath. He's really put his hand up, been brilliant every single week. But I think the line-out is going to be so important to him that he's going to want a specialist kind of line-out or a rangier 6 rather than someone over the ball. If you had asked me re-7 after the autumn, I would have gone for Jack Willis. He's now gone over to Toulouse and been brilliant down there. He's put himself outside of his comfort zone. But I actually think since the autumn series, Tom Curry's been brilliant. I'd get Tom Curry in, but I don't think he's fit at the moment. He's picked up a little hammy. The extent of that, I'm not sure. But if everyone's fit, I'm going to put Tom Curry back in there. For me, he's 24 years old. He's got 45 caps. He did have a little wobble early in the year, but I think he's back to his best now. And he's tough. He's a tough player to play against. And number 8, I'm going to go Alex Dombrandt. I think if England want to play a slightly wider game and play a bit more of 10 rather than 9 and running better lines and different angles, there's not many better than him. And I've been lucky enough to see it firsthand. Of course, people will say about Vunipola and Ludlam and all that kind of stuff, who are probably more abrasive carriers. But I think if you want to play slightly wider game, I think Dombrandt will suit that role.
Yeah, that's interesting with Dombrandt. And he also gives you a bit of height in the line-out too, where Billy isn't really a line-out option in that same aspect. So if he is going for that, I could see that as well. It'd be interesting, I wonder, because there's just so much options at 7 that, there's always been that experiment of Curry at 8. Do they go back to that? A bit like New Zealand with Ardie Savea, and that allows you a Jack Willis or a Tom Pearson or Ben Earl or someone who Ben Earl and Tom Pearson, their premiership form at the moment, has been incredible. And it's like, one of those guys has got to be in at least the squad or in the mix. Which one they go with will be interesting. And then, I think it's if they go Curry at 7, then who do you put on the bench there as that back row on the bench? Do you have Jack Willis coming on, or do you leave a big carrier like Billy to come on at the end and you back, you back what you have on the field, like Marrow coming to 6 if you had to or something?
Yeah, exactly. Like if that is what would happen, like you could put Courtney in a second row, so then maybe you don't need a second row on the bench and all that kind of stuff. There are many different permutations, but yeah.
Okay, scrum half, mate. Let's work our way through.
Who do you reckon?
I think JVP is still the guy. I think he's, he reminds me so much of young Lenny, young Ben Youngs, seeing him in camp as like the little youngster. And I just see so much. And I think it's so cool that you got him at the bottom. And then you've got Ben Youngs as the senior. It reminds me of like Youngsy and Harry Ellis kind of back in the day kind of vibe. And I think that those two are definitely in the mix for me. I'm not sure who the third 9 would be. I think, fortunately, DC's time's probably come to an end, but who that third 9 is, I think is a good question.
I think I agree. I would go for him as my starter as well. I think he had a tough run against New Zealand, but he was back to go out there and do it again and again. And look, he's had some big moments in big England games so far. I think we're now in a position with English rugby where we do have options, whereas for a long time it was, like I said, Ben Youngs, Danny Kerr. Who's next? We know they're there, but who is? People have kind of been in and out. You have Dan Robson and Willie Hines and people like that who have had a couple of caps here and there, but no one really kind of put their hand up. And look, we do have that. They will have that experience, and I think looking ahead to the World Cup, I think Steve will take one of the experienced guys, either Ben or Danny, just because he knows what they can do. And if you need someone to control the last bit of a game, he can put them on. Rafi Quirk up at Sale, I really like him.
That's probably my third is Rafi Quirk on.
I'd put him in there. He's learned from probably the best scrum half in the last 5 years in Faf de Klerk, being up at Sale, being his understudy, training with him every day. But for me, I like him.
All right, fly half. Big. This is a big call, I think, here. It's big, mate. And I'm torn. I think you could go so many different ways, and it depends how you want to play. Like, you could go Farrell the 10. His form at Sarries there has been incredible. He's just skated through with a ban, which, there's a whole nother podcast discussion of should he have got longer, should he not, but he's going to be available for that first game. I think that it's either Smith or Ford. I think they're going to give Farrell a go at 12 one more time. And it's whether or not I think you go Marcus Smith at 10 and George Ford, who only just coming back from a long injury layoff, is your other fly half in the mix, who I think will probably go to the World Cup and probably a big part of the plan, potentially be a bench option to control or depending on how they play. But I think they're going to go Marcus Smith at 10 first.
Is Ford back?
He trained with England like a week ago when they did that fitness training in camps. He was in that, but I don't think he's come on yet.
I think they're going to go Farrell. I think they'll go Farrell at 10. Should they, shouldn't they? I think the way he's playing, he's been brilliant. I think he's been brilliant recently. Yeah, and like I said, there's moments against him, but that temperament, and I think especially a new coach coming on, I think he'll want that bit of control straight away. He'll want the goals kicked. Not that the other two can't do that, but I think he'll do that. And you look at the way Sarries are playing, and they're playing pretty well.
They're playing very well. I do think his form in the Prem deserves to start at 10. It's mainly only because they seem to fit him at 12 to allow one of the others to play. But I agree. I think Farrell's done enough to earn that 10 shirt.
But does he make a new captain?
It's a great question. Yeah.
Often, whenever a new coach comes in to an international setup, to a club setup, they want to put their mark straight away on it. And more often than not, they change captain. And I don't think Farrell's done anything in terms of he should lose a captaincy, but Steve just trying to put his own feel in it. Might think, okay, who else? But that's another podcast. That's another.
Yeah, I'm guessing Genge, Marrow's always kind of been talked about, but never really given that opportunity at club or country. So, Ted Hill's always been seen as a potential leader one day.
The only person. My thing would be Genge. If he was going to change it, And obviously he worked with him at
And
Leicester.
he was his
He'll
captor
know
at Leicester, yeah.
He's spoken about, not that, I mean, Owen's all about fight and intensity and stuff anyway, so he's got two people there who he could choose. The other thing is, with your front row, you don't have to play 80 minutes, do you? And whether that kind of comes into conversations, but again, he would have had that dilemma when he was at Leicester. But yeah, like I said, that's for another time.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go Farrell at 10 with a potential captain change on the markers. And all right, who have you got for 12, mate? And 13. Well, just give me your centres in general. Partnership. They're more of a partnership anyway.
The thing is, Manu's playing well. He's getting himself back there. But I think I'm going to go Slade at 12.
Interesting.
I'm going to go Slade at 12 and Marchant at 13.
Interesting.
I think, like I said, I think they want to try and play a little bit wider. Henry Slade is bigger than people assume. He's quite a big lad. His distributing skills are pretty phenomenal. And with Marchant there, they probably have a little bit more speed in that 13 channel. We know he can cover the wing. But yeah, that would be my centre partnership.
Nice, mate. I'm not 100% sure. I could see them going Slady at 12 and Manu at 13 as a change up. I could see them going vice versa with those two. I've seen some people talking about Dan Kelly in the mix, where obviously Borthwick rates him and there's potential. I've seen him on a few people's teams and talked about, but it's a tough one because I still think even when you look at the way Nick Evans gets Quins going, he's got Esterhazen. Are you basically saying you'd have Slade play that kind of role in the attack, and then instead of using Manu as sort of that power center, and then you'd kind of use because Slade is kind of more of an all-round distributor as well, a bit like Esterhazen. I think he's underrated at how much he distributes at 12 for Quins as well.
I think it just, again, like you said, it's just how they're going to play. I think he has that ability to, like I said, Fowler's a big guy. Fowler's 6'2", Slade's 6'2", 6'3". Marchant's not very, yes, they're not an Esterhazen size, but you look at the teams they're playing at and what 12 in kind of Europe at the moment, or playing in the Six Nations, is going to be that kind of ball carrier, that kind of Jamie Roberts-esque or do you know what I mean? That kind of is probably more distributing.
And Manu's not a bad ace to have on the bench either, to bring on for the last 20 or something, 30 as an impact as well.
Well, exactly.
If he's on, you can't ignore that guy. It just depends. He hasn't quite clicked to that gear recently that we know he can, but as soon as he's there, he's a no-brainer to be in your team. Like, he just does things that other humans can't do. Like, he adds value that some people just can't other people just can't, they can't match it, you know, what he brings. And then
watching him, he looks like he's enjoying his rugby again. Whereas, Manu, he's often managing a small injury or a bit of a niggle or something like that. Again, because he is so powerful and so explosive, and the intensity in which he plays, he looks like, and what Sale are doing at the moment and the way they're playing is going well to him. And a lot of people would also, you look at the way Sam James is playing up at Sale as well.
I've seen him mentioned as well in the mix.
Again, isn't the worst shout, I don't think. But I would go Slade and Marchant for that.
Nice. All right. So then who is your back three, mate?
In the back three, I'm going to go for Hassel Collins, Anthony Watson, and Freddie Stewart. That's going to be my back three. I think Hassel Collins has been brilliant for Irish. He's scoring tries, he's breaking tackles, he's explosive, and they might just think, a bit of fresh blood, a bit of these young wingers. They're elusive, they're exciting. I think Watson he's getting back to where he was. For me, he's another big guy. He's 6'3", 6'4", serious under the high ball. One of those players who excites you and the crowd as soon as he touches the ball, and he can make something happen. And I think, for me, Freddie Stewart's going to be in that shirt for a long time. As a forward, as you know, as soon as that ball goes up, there's no better feeling than knowing your fullback's going to deal with it, whatever kind of comes his way. And for me, he's definitely that guy. Yes, there are areas of his game he could work on in terms of attacking flow and skills and all that kind of stuff. But his biggest attribute and biggest strength for me is his high ball and stuff. And he's been absolutely outstanding. I think he'll be in that 15 chat.
Yeah, I agree with Watson. I agree with Stewart. Hassel Collins having a great year. The only one that I think potentially could creep in as well is Arundel if he's fit and he gets, shows that form that we've seen from him just with his pace and how electric he was in the summer and in Australia, and you just know he can score, those tries like almost Cheslin Colby-esque, that only one or two guys on the field have that ability to score from anywhere. So he's probably the only one I'd probably keep in the mix as well. Or the only other one I think who's really standing out on form is Caleb Murley at Quins as well. Nick Evans knows him. He's been backing up performances as well. So for me, it's probably one of those three. I think it is time that we can maybe go consistent to new blood there. And then I think Anthony Watson at his best is hard to beat, mate. The guy's electric. He's so well-rounded. He can play 15 as well. Freddie Stewart speaks for himself, how young he is, and how I don't think he's not been picked in an England team since his debut. I don't think he's missed any games. Like, he's first name on the team sheet at the moment. So I'm pretty happy with that. And that kind of solidifies our team as such. So we'll just run through 1 to 15 again, just for everyone listening, because it's taken us a while to get there. But I'm going to bang it out now. We've got Genge at loosehead, Jamie George at hooker, Carl Sinclair at tight head, Maro Toji and David Ribbons in the row. At 6, we've got Courtney or Ted Hill, depending on injury to Courtney. 7, we've gone Tom Curry. If no Tom Curry, I'm guessing we go Jack Willis. 8, we've gone Alex Dombrandt. 9, we've gone JVP, Van Poorvliet. 10, we've gone Owen Farrell. 12, we've gone Henry Slade. 13, we've gone Joe Marchant. On the wings, we've gone Anthony Watson and we'll say Hassel Collins. I'll go with the Robshaw team. And then at 15, we've gone Freddie Stewart. So, all right, Borthwick, if you're listening, there's your team, mate. We've sorted it for you, so don't worry about it.
We'll take a little bit of a coaching commission, if that's a team.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
But yeah, I think that's a strong team. It's got, like I said, power up front. There's a lot of set piece in there. And there's a bit of flair, mate.
I agree. And we've got a good bench to bring on. I know I didn't rally it off, but I think if you look through who can come on and change the game, I think England aren't looking too bad on the horizon of a Six Nations, which is, I think, just to end this chat full circle, it's quite impressive to go from the worry and the uncertainty of when Eddie left and what was going on to have a clearer picture and excitement and potentially what's formatting. It is pretty exciting, and it's been quite a quick turnaround. And I think the RFU got a lot of flack from some people for dropping Eddie, but I think they've also done a great job in bringing Steve in, who you can just tell he's an operator by the team he's putting together.
Yeah, I think so. And with Scotland coming to town that first game as well, the Calcutta Cup, and there'll be an extra little bit of spice about that game. England haven't had a great record against them in recent years as well, so they'll want to hit the ground running. The fans are excited. People want to get behind this England side and what Steve and the coaches and the players are all going to stand for. And I think it's an exciting time. Look, there'll be some ups and there'll be a couple of downs, I'm sure, along the way. But it's supporting this group. It's giving it time. It's getting behind the side again. And hopefully they can do some pretty special things.
Definitely. Last thing I'm going to do is put you on the spot, and I'm going to have you predict where England finish in the Six Nations. And I'm going to replay it every week until we get a result.
I think they will finish second.
2.
Ireland or France. I don't know which one. I think they'll win one of those games, but I think they'll lose one, and I don't know which one.
Interesting. There you hear it, mate. Chris Robshaw, the Oracle. Let's see how it goes. I'm not sure. I think they could come, second or third, depending on how France and Ireland go. And the fact if they make sure they get through Scotland and things like that, because they're just a thorn in the side of a campaign when you catch them on the wrong day. But Chris, I think it's been great to have you on. I think we wrap it up there. Thanks so much for your insight. Thanks for making time as well. And we look forward to having you on again, maybe at some point, and discussing some of the Six Nations or something. So thanks so much, mate. Wishing you the best and good luck with that marathon training.
Pleasure, mate. See you soon.
And that is a wrap on this week's show. So good to have Chris on again. Big thank you for him for giving his time and insight. He's a guy who's been there and done it. He's been England captain. He's coached with Nick Evans, been coached by Steve Borthwick in the England setup, knows this system well, knows a lot of these players. I think really good insight. It's good to get a team on paper as well. We'll try and get that out on social as well to get people's comments and give you guys, fans, a chance to maybe engage and give your comments. And it's just good to get him on. And as we start building towards the Six Nations here at NBC Sports, we are the home of the Six Nations in America. That's what we'll be focusing a lot of these podcasts on, and really trying to get some good guests on as the tournament kicks off and as we get into the action. So for everyone here who's listening and watching, all the people that comment and share our social, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back again next week, but bye for now.